One of the best Grand Tour battles in recent years was between Biniam and Mathieu van der Poel in the Giro last year in punchy finishes, sprints, and breakaways. And the Giro is coming up this weekend, and the best place to watch is GCN Plus. LR viewers can get 15% off an annual GCN Plus pass in selected territories, watching every kilometer of the Giro live and on demand. That is what I will be doing for the rest of this month. But the first stage we saw these two superstars going head to head was stage 1 in Hungary, starting in Budapest, going out to Visegrad. It's a really easy stage, and then a 5k 4% uphill finish. And it's an unusual stage. We've seen this in the Giro before, back in, I think, when Saunier Derval won and two Androni guys went the break, horses, the Hussars chasing, and Intermarché and Alpecin taking responsibility for Biniam and Van der Poel. And yet, this was one of the easiest stage starts, and then you have the full peloton coming into the uphill finish, and people aren't going to just drop straight away. Fighting for position is still really important. Now, Ewan was here for Lotto Soudal. They're like, let's just hold position at the front here. No one overlap us. They move over to the right-hand side, but they got bigger guys. Apart from De Gent, they've got Kluger and I think Zelig, and that move over to the right allows Alpecin to move up on the left-hand side for Van der Poel. They and Intermarché are going to want a little bit of a harder pace than Caleb Ewan would want, for example. Someone like Carapaz would want even harder, or Pello Bilbao or Narvaez, like proper puncher guys. And this is kind of like the Poggio finish. A little bit different, but it's similar. It just doesn't come with 260 Ks beforehand. And there's a bit of a lull. Narsen jumps. Ineos start taking over. And you see where Alpecin and Biniam with Intermarché, they kind of position themselves behind Ineos. They don't want to make it too hard. They still want their guy to be able to sprint, and they want them to maintain. I mean, that's a good position to be in with 3Ks to go. We still have over 4 minutes left in this climb. And then Kemna jumps. And I don't want to say this was because of my pep talk outside the buses before stage 1, but if he's doing 8,000 watts, well, I mean, you draw your own conclusions. Leonard jumps, a gap opens up, and it's up to Intermarché to bring it back. Is this man in a Batman outfit? I didn't see this at the first time of watching. I think he is, but I haven't got a front shot because there weren't really motos close or too many moto shots. And World Tour guys, surprise, surprise, they're fit. Easy stage. It's still going to be a huge bunch, but the question is, can you sprint at the end of this? And we see position important for Bilbao, who ends up third on this stage, but he's moving up from really deep on the right-hand side. I'm pretty sure that's him because it's his typical, very unique style, and that's going to cost you moving up position like that. And he's still really deep when Formolino, I think, jumps. Ulisi didn't have it this stage, and he lets Formolo's wheel go. Bilbao is chasing the Cofidis rider, who then lets Formolo's wheel go. Ewan's having to close a little gap himself. And then Bilbao's spending more energy closing down Formolo, whilst Binny and Van der Poel a little bit smoother. I'm pretty sure Van der Poel's power file is up on Strava if you want to check that out. A little bit smoother at this point in the crucial last 700 minutes, last minute of this climb, where you're about to have to dump a 1,200 watt sprint for 20 seconds, or I don't know, 15 seconds at the end of this, and then Binny moves up with Van der Poel on the wheel, and then Kelderman jumps, the second Bora rider, and Wilco's actually pretty punchy and got a sprint, which is, for a guy who's not won many or road stages or for a long time, he actually is very punchy, and that then lines the group out. Ewan's looking in prime position, third wheel, but then Binny jumps him. Ewan goes back to the inside. Van der Poel gets the drag up from Binny with 100 to go, and he's just too fast, got too long a sprint, the best in the world on these sort of efforts. Ewan, we see in the background crashing. Again, what happened? We see in the overhead shot, Cor leading out Ewan. Ewan has to duck on the inside of Cor. Good on Cor for keeping that door open. Binish crosses over safely to Ewan, but then Ewan, he's on a really big gear and then just overlaps his front wheel here. And he was just in a much bigger gear. They're just sort of struggling to get over compared to Van der Poel and Binny, and chops himself. And that would really, he didn't have a good Giro last year, Caleb Ewan, but 1-0 to Mathieu van der Poel. He would then go thermonuclear on the Poggio this year in Milano San Remo. He can't believe it, can't celebrate too much pain in the legs ahead of Binny Bilbao third. goes into pink. But that wasn't the last of the battle between these guys. Stage 8. Now, this is not a stage where either of them, I think, came on the top 3. Bini kind of marked Van der Poel out of this a little bit, and Lotto were very, very good on this stage. They used their numbers and got ahead with De Gent, who's actually quite fast in a finish. And I'm pretty sure Van der Poel, Bini did work at the end, but it was too late. Van der Poel kind of had a sarcastic laugh emoji about them working together after this stage. So the two big guns kind of marked themselves out, similar to Van Aert and Van der Poel in stage 7 of the Tour 2021 when they got in that huge breakaway. But here was another chance. Pescara to Jesi, breakaway with Demarchi, Bice, Narsen, and this was just a heavy stage, 200 Ks, heat. I think it was maybe unseasonably hot, or maybe Italy does get hot in the middle of March. And Ewan with 80 Ks to go, already you see those Lotto guys dangling at the back, and Intermarché are putting the pressure on just over all these hills. And Carapaz looks like he's had a meeting with the grass on the right-hand side. And Ewan's dropped 76 Ks to go. Demar's still there. He was in good shape. Cavendish still, who'd already won a stage in Hungary, I think, is still there at this point before the next hill with 69 Ks to go puts paid to him. So didn't look like the most savage of profiles. And there's easier parkour that, you can see around the World Tour calendar that sprinters make it to the finish. But the succession of these hills, the way it was raced, and then Van der Poel, this is a curious, he gets something like a bit of cloth or material or something stuck in his, maybe a glasses cleaner stuck in his rear cassette. And then this is the Victor Campanat special. Remember from the Giro TT bike change in Bologna, they give him the bike in the big dog halfway down the cassette, I think. And he's doing strengthies up the climb. Then he mashes under big tension into the small chain ring and drops his chain. And then he's like, just fix it. I'm done. Oh, actually, no, he wasn't even straight. He didn't care. But just not the best bike change I've ever seen, but it didn't matter at all because he was cruising. He would get back on easily, and this is the perfect sort of profile for him. Carapaz, I think he had a bike change after the crash. Van der Poel back easily. Demarchi getting rid of Bice and Narsen to be the last of the breakaway. Jules Jensen attacks for a second time, and this time Alpecin have had enough. And Intermarché, he's got a couple of bodyguards there not pulling. Kranich and Jules Jensen, breakaway success or strike rate, not the best. They were in the Romandy break to Tion. Now Ineos are moving. It's like, what are you and Jumbo up to? This is supposed to be a sprint stage. You guys suddenly appearing, and they're jumping. Tobias Foss in the national champs jersey in Norway, then jumping, and this puts a lot of pressure. 12 Ks to go. Got a 4K, 4% climb with pinches. Look at the Alpecin riders now dropping off. They've been working a lot for this day. They've been marking moves from Jules Jensen. Ballerini third wheel. And then Ineos take it up. Ballerini goes now. Sivakov, he does a really hard lead out on the steepest section of this punchy climb. And we're now into week 2. Hotter conditions, up and down all day. Covey jumps as well. Pozzovivo. This is... I want to give a huge shout out and props to Pozzo, who didn't get a contract for a long time into this year with Demar now being dropped. He is integral to Bini winning this stage. Look at how reduced this group is. It's basically GC guys, the top punchers, and Bini and MVDP. And he chases back Alessandro Covi. And he's going to do more work later. And you see Nibali, he was on Astana, came fourth in this Giro. It seems like a long time ago. Bardet sprints up. I don't know why, because then he just stops. And now this is a danger zone. And Bini's like, you got to keep pedaling, Domenico, because this is the danger zone where everyone, if we just stop, someone's going to jump. Whether it's not a GC guy, someone will jump to try and go for this stage. And he's calling up. I think it's Jan Hirt behind. And he ended up coming 6th on GC in this Giro with a great third week. And so Intermarché, this was a first stage MVP just better than Bini. Intermarché's teamwork in this stage was unbelievably good, with Nibali jumping with the tailwind, as you can see from the yellow flags, marked. When Simon Yates goes with, I think, Formulo and Mathieu van der Poel now, who's jumping ahead with 6 Ks to go, Bini is able to sit in the wheels whilst van der Poel does a huge effort for several kilometres, and they bring it back. I think it's Rota, Hirt, Pozzo for Bini, and they are the sort of the guys that set this stage up for Bini, who obviously was able to get over the climbs well too. But Van der Poel was putting everybody on a huge amount of pressure on this fast pedaling descent. And did this cost Van der Poel the stage? Because it was a long sprint at the end. We're 5 minutes to the finish, and he's doing these huge repeated efforts. Eventually, he pulls the plug when he sees that the GC guys and Vinny himself have actually brought it back. But now there is no peloton. Carapaz is jumping, Bilbao's jumping, and all the GC guys are sniffing a lack of control. And it's actually Huge who goes. Shameful. Shame on the bunch for bringing him back. I hope Hugh's on for a big Giro coming up this month. He'll be participating with Almeida as well. You can see in the Young Riders jersey, second wheel. I think it's Rota doing the lead out, keeping the speed high here. No more attacks from anybody else. And look who it is who does the final lead out. Domenico Pozzovivo, near 40 years old, 55-kilo Italian with a badly healed broken arm. Who would win versus him and Mathieu van der Poel? That's right, you guessed correctly. Domenico Pozzovivo. Bini jumps early on the left-hand side and just gets enough of a gap. You'll see it in the overhead shot, just that lead out from Pozzovivo, the really early jump from Bini, perhaps the extra work that Van der Poel had done in the last 5 minutes, and these two are just a cut above the rest of the guys sprinting in this stage, which goes to show how hard this stage was. But Bini wins, I think, the first ever Black African to win a Grand Tour stage. History made, and here you see in the overhead that gap he gets from the initial jump, and because Van der Poel was just following the Pozzo lead out, and then Van der Poel spending all this energy to get back into the wheel, and he's probably a 15-second sprint guy anyway in terms of his preference. If we see at Tour of Flanders, you compare 2020 and 2021 sprint when Asgreen went long, and Bini's just got it. 1-1, wins that stage, huge for Intermarché. He'd already won Gent-Wevelgem earlier in the year, and this was just a quality break battle in the Giro. We had some great breaks in the Giro last year. Here at Buitrago, like really quality guys who, like Buitrago, third in Liège this year. Celebration for Pozzovivo and Bini, who unfortunately, I mean, we can laugh about it now, but he popped the Prosecco into his eye and had to abandon the Giro after this stage. So who knows, maybe we were denied a few more battles. Bang, bang, punch, punch. But I'm stoked for the Giro coming up this month. GCN Plus is the best place to watch. Let me know down below, what throwback do you want to see this week from last year's Giro d'Italia for my second hype up video before it kicks off. Until then, ciao.